EgyptAir's Airbus A320 was preparing for its flight from Paris to Cairo. EgyptAir was founded on June 7, 1932, and is Egypt's flag carrier airline. It operates flights to over 120 destinations across the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The airline is headquartered in Cairo and has a fleet of 80 aircraft. The plane carried 56 passengers and 10 crew members. There were 5 cabin crew, 2 pilots, and 3 security personnel on board. The 36-year-old captain, Mohammed Shakir, had a total of 6,640 flight hours. The 25-year-old first officer, Mohammed Asim, had 2,771 flight hours. The EgyptAir Airbus A320 was preparing for a flight from Paris to Cairo. After 2.5 hours in the air, everything seemed normal. As the plane was leaving Greek airspace, the crew communicated with Greek air traffic control and began heading toward Egyptian airspace. However, they needed to confirm this transition with the Greek controllers. The air traffic controller attempted to reach the plane for confirmation, but received no response. After trying 3 more times without success, it became clear that something unusual was happening. Then, the aircraft suddenly disappeared from the radar. Greek air traffic control immediately contacted their counterparts in Cairo, but they also had no information about the plane, and it was no longer visible on their radar. It was now certain that something was wrong. Morning came, and there was still no news of the aircraft. Greek, Egyptian, and French air and naval forces began searching for the plane near the Egyptian coastline. A day after the search began, debris from the aircraft was found in the sea, confirming that it had crashed. However, a significant portion of the wreckage was still missing. Using radar and satellite data, investigators reconstructed the plane's flight path after losing contact. The aircraft descended rapidly while spinning, indicating that the pilots had no control over it. As with every crash, the answers were hidden in the black box. However, the black box was buried 3,000 meters deep in the sea, and everyone was racing to recover it. Meanwhile, another clue emerged: a digital data transmission system on the aircraft. These systems send short messages from the plane to ground stations via satellite. The plane had transmitted several error messages before crashing. 2 messages indicated an issue with the cockpit's right window. The third, and most critical, message reported smoke in the lavatory. Later, another important message showed smoke in the avionics bay, a compartment containing essential systems for the plane's operation. Smoke or a malfunction in this area was a severe problem. 2 minutes later, the pilots discovered that the flight control systems were no longer working, which could explain the aircraft's slow, spinning descent. However, planes have backup control systems, and the pilots had activated them after the main system failed. All these malfunctions pointed to one likely cause: a fire in the front section of the aircraft. For a plane flying at 37,000 feet, a fire is one of the worst possible scenarios, as it can severely damage critical systems. Then, a miracle happened. Just 2 weeks after the crash, the black box was found. Investigators wasted no time in analyzing it. After listening to the recordings, they had solid evidence. A fire had indeed broken out in the cockpit, and the pilots had tried to deal with it. However, they found no clues about where or why the fire started. Around the same time, an unusual development occurred. The Egyptian government claimed the plane was the target of a terrorist attack and even stated they had evidence but did not present it. Legally, this claim transferred the investigation to the Egyptian judiciary, sidelining French authorities. Despite this, French investigators independently analyzed some recovered aircraft parts for traces of explosives, but the results were negative, ruling out terrorism. French investigators faced challenges, as all the evidence was held by Egyptian authorities. 6 years after the crash, there was still no official report on the cause. In March 2022, a determined journalist, Leo Berberi, published a groundbreaking report with evidence suggesting that one of the pilots had been smoking in the cockpit, which may have caused the fire. The evidence included a copy of the cockpit voice recorder, which was also held by French investigators. Upon reviewing the recordings, they detected the sound of an oxygen leak in the cockpit. While an oxygen leak alone could not start a fire, it could intensify an existing one. When French investigators reviewed Egypt's aviation regulations, they found that pilots were allowed to smoke in the cockpit. Further evidence revealed that the ashtrays in the cockpit had been replaced before the flight, suggesting that the 2 Egyptian pilots had been smoking. Egyptian authorities denied this claim, stating that the pilots were non-smokers. Maintenance records revealed another crucial detail. The co-pilot's oxygen mask had been replaced before the flight. Experts suggested that the mask may have been accidentally left in emergency mode. In this mode, it would release oxygen at higher pressure, which could fuel a fire. French investigators concluded that the crash was likely caused by a cigarette igniting a fire, fueled by oxygen leaking from the co-pilot's mask. This fire, which could not be contained, ultimately led to the tragic accident. Leo published this story, but according to some experts, this theory was impossible. Egyptian authorities also rejected the theory at the time. While the mystery of the crash persisted, the Egyptian Civil Aviation Authority released a final report on October 30, 2024. The report concluded that the crash resulted from an explosion in the galley area behind the cockpit. The fire caused by the explosion quickly spread, with oxygen leaking from a cockpit mask intensifying the flames and smoke. This chain of events led to multiple system failures and ultimately, the crash. Despite the release of this report, some people still believe the crash was caused by smoking in the cockpit, while others trust the findings of the Egyptian authorities. What do you think caused this crash? Was it the French investigators' theory, or do you believe the Egyptian authorities' report? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. By the way, following this incident, Egyptian authorities banned smoking in the cockpit. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe.